Dearly beloved, we have gathered here before you, Dre, our special guest, Ed Bowser, and myself, to talk about the very worst album in the Whitney Houston catalog. Now, I know this is going to be difficult. We are not going to enjoy this in the least bit because we love Whitney Houston. We really do. Whitney Houston is one of the most incredible female vocalists in the history of modern music.
Mm-hmm.
She just is. There's no getting around that. And as card-carrying members of the R&B listening audience, we supported her for as long as we possibly could. We really did. We hated to see what was happening to her, both personally and musically. It was like we were watching, I know for me, like I was watching somebody that I grew up with combust. I was watching her fall, and it was really hard to watch it for me. And I'm sure it was hard for Dre and for Ed as well. If probably in slightly different ways, but still, when we'd been through the Michael Jackson special where she looked the way she did, her whole persona changed completely in ways that none of us ever saw coming. This is what drugs and alcohol do, kids.
Yeah.
And her voice was just kind of beginning to let go on My Love Is Your Love. By just Whitney, it was going even further, but they were writing to it. So it was less noticeable, and we could get past some things. And we were charitable with that last record, believe me. For as bad as it was, we were fairly charitable. But by the time we get here, it's unfortunately the charity kind of comes to an end. So this record was released. It was worked on for over a year and finally released in August the 28th, 2009 on Arista. It was the last record that we got from her, period, unfortunately. Not a great way to go out. Mr. Bowser?
Mm-hmm.
Any out stories? Anything?
Aunt Jackie is long checked out by the time we get to 2009.
Was she even aware that there was even an album in 2009?
If there was, we never discussed it because I don't ever remember talking to her about the last two albums.
She's like, we don't speak of this.
And we talked about every Whitney album except these two. And I can't blame anyone for that. Before I do what I do, I am going to always, because as every objective album reviewer can, I will give the pluses before I give the minuses.
Good.
The pluses that I will say on this very unfortunate album is that I give Whitney props because most legends at this stage of their career, and Lord knows we see it all the time in 2020, in the 2020s, where we have legends trying to come back and they're doing and embracing sounds that's completely out of pocket and they sound ridiculous. This sounds like a Whitney album. I'll give them that. They tried, but that voice is completely gone. It ain't here, y'all, and it ain't working. I love, there's one song I love. $1 Million Bill is all kinds of fun.
That's it.
That's the
all
one.
That's the kinds of fun.
Yeah,
that's the open. Yeah.
But after that, it is a 10-track march to doom.
Alicia Keys wrote that.
Yes, shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Swiss who produced it.
Yeah.
That one worked, and it was the Whitney that I love.
Because Alicia respects the legend. She's not going to let Whitney fall flat on her face, but she's working with her.
And it worked. It was a song that worked.
Really works.
Let's not say that there are not other legends on it. Johnson Austin's here. R. Kelly's here. Yeah. Diane is back. But it ain't
Kelly.
Working. Yes, everybody is just completely. It feels like folks are phoning it in. Her voice is gone.
Yeah,
it ain't working at all. For this to be your last album is depressing in every sentence. Yeah. Aunt Jackie couldn't give no love, so I can't give no love. Aunt Jackie don't co-sign it. Give me $1 Million Bill and turn it off after 3 minutes and 24 seconds in.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Dre, please. No. Wait. Worst song.
Worst song. I said 2 through 11.
No, I'm sorry. That's not what we're here for. I have a worst one easy. I can scrape the bottom of the barrel nicely with this one. Yes.
I'm gonna go with.
I absolutely hated on this album. Yes, go ahead.
I mean, there were quite a few I absolutely hated, but I remember looking back at the track list, the one that jumps out that I really did not like, and it may just be because I was so tired by the time I got to it. Salute, the last song.
That was the one.
It may be because I was done. Now it's like I can't hear you no more.
No, it wasn't. It's just bad.
It's bad.
It's not that you were done or that you were tired. La la la. It's because it's bad. It's just
poor Whitney. Yes. Start at $1 Million Bill, end at $1 Million Bill, and you'll be fine. Yeah.
It's a single. Yeah, it's a single. Dre, I'm sorry. I really am. I hate this for you. I hate this for all of us.
Yeah, $1 Million Baby was that definitely her best song. Like I said, Alicia Keys was gonna do right by Whitney. Alicia, she's always had respect for the legends. Prince, Whitney Houston, Gladys Knight. I've seen her show, respect to the legends. So I knew that Whitney was going to be in good hands with her. At the very least. Now, everything else that's outside of Alicia's hands. At that point, it's in God's hands. So there was really nothing else.
Oh my gosh!
There's really nothing else that could be done. And I got 2 songs here. "Call You Tonight." I really didn't like. That was written by I can't pronounce his first name. Jonte Austin. That doesn't work. That
was Stargate too. Like
yeah. And then I can't think of the name of this particular track, but it was her and Akon, and I'm just like, nah,
there's
that
a
ain't
couple
working
of them.
Either. Yeah, that just wasn't working either, man. Whitney Houston. Here's the thing. Whitney, even if Whitney still had a voice, I'm not sure if Whitney in 2009 would have been that great. But this album should have never happened.
Mm-mm. No, it should.
I mean, I get you're an artist. You haven't done anything in several years, and you want to get your name back out there. But it was just, at least from a physical standpoint, she seemed like she was getting better physically. Like she didn't look as bad as she did at the Mary J. Blige concert or the Michael Jackson thing. But
that's true. She did. Yeah. She did look better. The cover is gorgeous.
Yeah,
I like the cover.
Was she clean at this point? I think she might have been clean at this point.
She's right there. See, look at her.
Yeah. Yeah. She looks like she's aging gracefully here. She's what, 45, 46 here?
She's beautiful.
Yeah, she looks great.
Rarely.
Yeah, so she looks like she was finally starting to get it together physically, but it might have been too late.
That smile.
Yeah. I mean, it is unfortunate, that this album was what it was because, as we know, she was kind of on borrowed time at this point, but yeah, like I said, $1 Million Baby, Alicia Keys did a really good job with that. Swiss Beats. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, you did. Okay. You covered worse. Like I Never Left, I think is the one you were going for because that's certainly on the bottom of my pile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna say what I have to say this way. So, oh man, I hate this. Okay. So these are the notes that I took because I do my best listening in the car, and this is what came out of it. I Look to You, Dripping in Auto-Tune, Funeral Dirge. That covers it. $1 Million Bill. It's a bit young for her, but I still really like it. Voice not in great shape, more auto-tune. I'm sorry. I do like the fact that Alicia does not get enough credit as a vocal producer, just across the board, because she did It's Impossible with Christina Aguilera, and that was pretty good too. Honestly, she's good at this. She kept it. She knew how to keep it. Whitney had a very dark voice at that point because of all the abuse that she put her body through. And it was prematurely dark. It was almost operating mostly in a male range, really. It wasn't a very feminine sounding voice by this point. But Alicia is gifted enough as a vocal producer and has enough of an ear, and Swiss Beats does too for that matter, that he kept her voice sounding light and airy and fluffy almost. And that's, I think, with a track like this, with that incredible Norman Harris sample in it too that really makes it work. Props to Norman Harris for everything. Love Norman Harris. But because they kept her voice so light, it kind of floated across the track, and that's what makes it work. And the choruses are just brilliant. If anything was going to hit off this record, it was going to be $1 Million Bill. And it didn't. It only peaked at number 99. It didn't do anything anywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it was just because she was in the condition she was in at that point.
Yeah.
But the song has no apologies to make. I agree with both of you. I think, like, of the songs, I think that's the song. And that's when I went back and listened to it, like, that was the one that stayed with me the longest. And I would listen to it a lot again. I have no problem with that. Nothing But Love. Too young for her. Her voice sounds weird on it. More auto-tune. Auto-tune is a constant complaint on this record. It's just the whole thing's ripping and tuning.
This was honestly 2009, 2008, 2009 was actually kind of for me, it was a dark time in R&B. Like, R&B just wasn't very good at this point in general. I mean, there was some good stuff out there, but I just like when I go back and listen to my playlist from that particular year, I'm like, this wasn't R&B's best. It definitely wasn't.
I've said many times, if I ever get a chance to write that book, I will talk about how everything just went left in 08, 09. I just feel like everything went topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
And we still haven't recovered.
But it wasn't even just R&B though. I mean,
it was everything.
It was everything, because this was at the point where people stopped spending money for recording studios. They started recording at home. Pro Tools went down in price, or, Ableton or all of the other software programs began to show up, and you didn't need outboard gear anymore because it was all, and forgive me for getting Greek, but it was all in the box at this point. All you had to have was like a cheap little M audio box, and you could record vocals as bad as they would sound.
Yeah.
Those of us who were mastering engineers at the time were pulling what was left of our hair out, because we were having to deal with this home recorded garbage and having to make it sound like something sonically. And there was only so much we could do. I mean, I was doing it at that point. It's just like, why? Like, how could you in good faith leave me with this? Like, it sounds terrible and you have to know it. And they're like, well, you're the mastering engineer. And I'm like, yeah, but there's only so much I can do. I can't work miracles here.
Right.
I can only work with what you've given me. So, I mean, these things were a sonic disaster. And because they were at home, people didn't feel the pressure that you should feel by being in a recording studio when the clock is running and the money's leaving you. That there's something intrinsically good about that pressure. That's not a bad thing. And the kids weren't feeling that pressure anymore because they were doing it at home. And then, of course, the record labels were like, well, if you're going to do it at home, then I'm not going to give you as much money.
Yeah.
And so they were cheaping out, and the studio musicians went away. So, the Steve Lukethers of the world and the Greg Fillinganes of the world, and the Dennis Chambers of the world, and the great players, the Omar Hakims that were spinning miracles on these records, they weren't available anymore. Paulinho da Costa wasn't working anymore. Abel Boreal, we could go on. But all these great musicians that were making records, the record labels weren't willing to pay for them anymore. So they vanished. So it was basically just left up to the artists themselves, not only to engineer their records, but also to play on them as well. And the result was just substandard material, as Ed was bringing out. So I think it was deeper than R&B, and it was deeper than bad songs, although bad songs certainly had a lot to do with it. Technically, the records just weren't being turned into records anymore, and the producers weren't being paid for.
Yeah.
So it's like Foster was getting less work, and even Timbaland wasn't getting as much work by this point, and it was all just kind of falling apart at the seams. And it was all a sign of a much bigger problem, because then by this point, Napster has already been in the world. Music has gone utterly digital. People weren't going to record stores to buy records anymore because the record companies have price gouged already. We talked about this in a previous video cast. And it was a much bigger problem than any one thing, but it was all caused by the fact that the record companies had price gouged people for so long, charging $17, $18 for a CD that you're not spending more than $1.50 to make.
Right.
And people just got sick of it. They weren't willing to spend money on buying music anymore. And that was when the whole thing went down. There was no more money being put into music anymore. Music was considered free. So why am I going to put a bunch of work into something that's free? Why would I do that? And I think that's where the problem comes in, where the music just isn't as good anymore. It's because nobody's paying money for it. Why am I going to kill myself for music that you're just going to take?
That's true. But along with that, and you're 100% totally right. When I write that book, I will be interviewing you for that. But the other things that go along with it, which you touched on, the lack of studio musicians, that's not a thing. You got artists, young artists making music at home, talented but untrained. So we've got a lot of that going on. We've got the rise of social media. We've got the digital push. There's just so much that changed at one time. My God, the auto-tune. There's just all of this at one time. The rise of hip hop kind of squeezing out.
We did a podcast on that. Me and Ed did a podcast on that.
We did that, yeah.
Yeah.
All of this happened at that one time. 2008, 9, 10, 11. This rise of new artists, this loud kind of contingent on social media that's like, these guys are our new legends. Get this. All of this at one time changed everything. So yeah, that's a whole nother episode, but very passionate about how the bottom fell out in 2009.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because it basically, the exception of the vocal thing, like it all kind of comes to roost on this record, because it's not like it's just a vocal issue. The tunes are not here. I mean, you get to like I Never Left. Akon has no business singing with her. He was nowhere near enough to sing with her. He was auto-tuned himself half the time. The song is too young sounding. She's not convincing. She doesn't care. More auto-tune. A Song for You starts out well, though it's too full of auto-tune. And then it turns into this nonsensical dance track, which doesn't go with the lyric at all. The lyric is this intimate conversation between two people, and the dance track takes all of that away. The production is wretched.
You know what's going to trip? You know what's going to trip you out though? This got good reviews by like Newsweekly, Rolling Stone.
Really?
Yeah, they got decent reviews, like better than I'm Your Baby Tonight.
That kind of surprises me.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Huh. I'm not sure what they would praise there.
I don't either. Maybe because Whitney's trying to make a comeback. I don't know, but
Payola.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can say about that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense because it's awful. I mean, the way it gets into that dance track thing, and now I'm looking at it like Stargate and Harvey Mason Jr. did this. This is a Stargate in the Underdogs. Like, my gosh,
yeah. It just wasn't a very good year in general for R&B. You know.
No, it wasn't. Here, let me finish this because I might as well. I didn't know my own strength, which was a single, of course. It's a Foster thing. She and Diane Warren wrote it together. Apparently, it feels autobiographical. The vocals decent, not as much auto tune as is on everything else, and it's not. It was still there, but it wasn't as intrusive. And she seems completely into it. It fits her well. It's not bad. I don't think it's bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And maybe it's just because I was in a sea of garbage at this point and I was looking for a life raft and she gave me one. Thank you very much. Worth it. Too young for her. She sings well, but there's auto-tune, of course. She doesn't really say much of anything in it. The lyric's not great. Kind of blah. Doesn't mean much. For the Lovers, way too young for her. That was an ongoing issue with this record. She was just doing tunes that were too young for her. It would sound good with a singer that was much younger. The beat is cool. She just doesn't sound right on it. Yeah. So I stand by that. For who did that one anyway? Oh yeah, that was Danger Hands.
Danger Hands.
You Got Me, another Akon thing. Too young. Same issues as the other Akon thing. Salute. Stupid lyric. Too young for her. The auto-tune. She doesn't care.
R. Kelly has no business writing for somebody like Whitney. Like, here's the thing. Despite R. Kelly's personal shortcomings as a human being, but just like strictly as a musician, I thought he was a great songwriter. You know, he wrote a lot of great stuff, made a lot of hits, but R. Kelly, Whitney Houston never made any sense. Even if you take Whitney in her prime and put it with R. Kelly, it just doesn't make any sense at all from a creative standpoint.
No, it doesn't. This is Clive going, "You're going to work with R. Kelly." That's what this is.
Right. And then he
move.
was at her funeral singing, and like that didn't even look right either. Like, why are you at her funeral? Like, you guys don't run in the same circles. You guys don't. That is, I don't know. The whole thing was just weird to me. Like, I didn't get it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it didn't. It was a very, very bad match, and he didn't. I mean, if you're gonna come to Whitney Houston, even at this point, you can probably save her with a good lyric. Okay,
Yeah.
great lyric, but he makes no attempt to do it here. I mean, "Salute" is just. It was written for like Jasmine Sullivan could kill something like that.
Yeah,
that would work for Jasmine Sullivan or a type like that.
And even here, by 2009, R. Kelly wasn't really R. Kelly no more. This is 2009, 2010. He was kind of on the downslide of his career too.
Yeah, he was slipping by then for sure. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it just and there were club mixes and things like that. Here, let's look at the carnage here. We might as well just do the whole thing. Yeah. So, oh wow, look at that. You'll never believe this. You're not going to believe this. I can't believe what I'm looking at. The album peaked at #1 on the Billboard Top 200. Better yet, it peaked at #1 on the R&B hip hop charts.
What was going on in 2009? Was just nobody putting out an album that year?
Wow.
Yeah, who was 2009? Yeah, what? Anthony Hamilton, Pleasure P, didn't he drop a solo project?
Sure did.
Maxwell.
Yeah, he made a comeback.
Trey Songz, probably his best album was that year.
Like, I'm amazed at these numbers. That's
who else was happening? I don't even remember 2009.
Someone remind me, was her reality show hot in the streets in 2009? Because if so, that could have done it.
No, because her and Bobby were divorced by this time.
Okay,
they had divorced at this point.
Man, I'm getting my years
that would have been
in age.
Whitney. That would have been not this.
Yeah, okay. 2002, 2002, 2003. Yeah.
But maybe it was just like the whole Whitney rising as a phoenix thing that did it.
Maybe.
She's finally away from, this isn't true, but she's finally away from the guy that took her down this path. She's finally free of him, la la la, Yeah. Maybe that's what this is about. Maybe this is a reaction.
The only thing I can say about this, I try to leave it on a good note. I liked her collab with Jordan Sparks, "Celebrate" on the Sparkle soundtrack. I thought that was pretty good. Agreed. Yeah. That was good. Wasn't that the last thing she recorded before she passed away?
That was it. Yeah. That was it. Yeah. And to be clear, we can leave it on an even better note. Worldwide, the record sold 2.5 million copies.
That's good.
Yeah, not bad.
It did 1 here. It just went platinum here.
This is 25 years in the game. I mean, that's not bad at all.
Not at all.
Bad. Yeah. It's not.
You want to hear something interesting?
Please.
Yes. A couple of random Whitney facts. I just wanted to throw them in there just because this one is a rumor. Apparently, Osama bin Laden had this weird infatuation with Whitney Houston. Has anybody heard about this?
Yeah. I remember this.
I don't even know if that's true or not, but I just found that interesting, though.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
And then she almost became an actor. She was supposed to be Bill Cosby's oldest daughter on the Cosby Show.
Yes, she was. I remember that.
Yeah. I remember this too.
She was still there anyway for a couple of episodes, but yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine that? Whitney not an actor, not a singer? That'd have been crazy.
She'd have done both and killed both.
Yeah,
that's true. In my mind. She had it to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely had it to do both. She picked up an American Music Award for the International Artist Award. She picked that up. The BET Honors gave her the BET Honor Award for Entertainment. NAACP Image Awards for "I Look to You" for the music video and the song. Go figure why. Yeah, that's what happened there. So, in spite of everything, it didn't do so bad. Now, of course, there was promo for this, and it was pretty considerable. So I'm not sure it's not in the red anyway, but it did move a little bit, and there's something to be said for that, in spite of the circumstances.
I mean, as much as we have said what we said about this album, Whitney is still a legend. She still has legions of fans.
Yeah.
It makes some sense. I'm not surprised by the number ones, but I'm not surprised by the million or so.
Yeah.
She's Whitney. Yeah.
Has she ever had an album go less than platinum?
No, I don't think so.
That never happened. No, not at all. Not even close. No. If it was going to be an album, it was going to be this one.
Yeah.
Even that, it's just proof of what we said earlier. We didn't leave Whitney. Whitney left Whitney, but we didn't leave her.
True. Very well said.
Yeah, but she sold. I mean, she released what, 7 or 8 albums, not including the stuff she did on the soundtracks. She sold over 200 million copies, so that's impressive. That's super impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Whatever. No, please go ahead.
I mean, you're what, in the top 15, top 20 selling artists of all time, somewhere in there.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting too. I mean, within the confines of her career, she barely wrote anything, and yet. Yeah. You look at those tunes, all the tunes that she did, and you can't imagine anybody else doing them. They're hers. Yeah. They're completely hers. She owns them all. They are Whitney Houston songs, even though she did not write them, with the exception of co-writing a bit of Queen of the Night and co-writing a bit of I Didn't Know My Own Strength. Yeah. Otherwise, all those songs are written by others, but they're hers. They will always be hers, no matter what. Yeah. Honestly, I'm Every Woman half belongs to her too. She took half of it, I think.
I can take
that. It's funny you mentioned that though about the writing. On Facebook, the Soul and Stereo Cypher Facebook group, we were talking a few months ago. Someone brought up like just the lack of Whitney's writing credits. Does that tarnish her legacy? To me, it's a no for what I just said, because every song she owns. Who else would do that? Like, I can't think of anybody. Her biggest hits, I can't picture anyone doing it. It sounds like it's fit for her. So it doesn't matter to me that she didn't physically put pen to paper, because it's still her in those songs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I don't care either. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're that good, then you deserve to have people writing for you. It doesn't matter. And they're hers. They're just the stuff that she did belongs to her, and that's just what that is. So I don't think that makes any difference at all. I really don't. When you're that good and do the tunes that convincingly, then they're yours. You ain't got to write in the spot with that. But she's just, I mean, without question, we said this already, of course, but she's one of the greatest voices we've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just about as good as it gets. And her songs have stood the test of time. They're still being played. They're still being evoked. Her voice is still being evoked. Brandy doesn't exist without her.
Right.
A lot of singers. There are a whole crop of singers, even though they didn't get what made Whitney as great as she was, and they didn't implement what she did, at least not totally. There are a whole crop of singers that don't exist without her. Mm-hmm. Mariah doesn't exist without her.
Right.
And then you go off onto that branch, and all the people that she influenced. The Kelly Clarkson doesn't exist, and Ariana Grande doesn't exist, and Jasmine Sullivan doesn't exist, and like I said, Brandy doesn't exist. And we could do this for a while. There are so many singers that just don't exist without Whitney Houston. And frankly, I mean, even Whitney at the least of her powers is still better than most at the height of their powers.
Look at what she did back in the 80s, man. She paved the way for more Black female artists to get on TV. I mean, Janet Jackson doesn't get on MTV without Whitney doing it first. Even Anita Baker, who actually came before Whitney, said that I wouldn't have gotten my stuff played on MTV or these other stations if it wasn't for Whitney breaking that color barrier, in the mid 80s,
Very
so
true.
I mean, Whitney. I mean, like you said, Michael Jackson was obviously the number one, the GOAT, whatever, but Whitney did it on her voice alone, though. You know what I mean? Michael was more of the dancing and the creativity in the music videos and all that stuff. But Whitney it was just her vocals, man.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Like there wasn't any extra, stuff there. It was just Whitney and her voice.
Yep.
That's such a good point, because she wasn't an entertainer in the traditional sense, the way that like Michael or a Prince was.
Right.
She didn't dance. She didn't like to dance. She's even said it in interviews. She's like, I'm not a dancer.
Yeah.
But she was Whitney. She didn't have to be a dancer. She could captivate you in the same way that somebody else was singing and dancing would, just by standing in front of a mic and blowing your face off.
And
all you needed.
There was a scene in the Bobby Brown movie where Bobby Brown's on the bus. It's him and New Edition, Whitney, and some other people. And Bobby's like losing his mind. He holds the gun. He gets a gun, runs up to the bus driver, and like holds him at gunpoint. Tells him to stop the bus and runs off the bus. They're like in the middle of nowhere, some small country town in the middle of nowhere. Tour bus. He's running through somebody's lawn. They got like a couple of acres. He's running, and this guy comes out. Looks like a redneck, whatever, American flag, all that stuff. Puts his gun on Bobby, like, get off my lawn, and then like, Johnny Gill and Ralph Trayvon run up like, please don't shoot, sir. Please don't shoot. Our friend is, kind of, going off the rails here. And then Whitney's over there too, like trying to calm Bobby down. And they're finally able to get Bobby back on the bus. And then the guy's like looking, he's like, was that Whitney Houston? Like some dude in some hillbilly town was like, he recognized Whitney Houston. That's Whitney star power right there.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. She was known absolutely everywhere. That's true.
Yeah.
In the end,
yeah,
we balk and justifiably so at what Clive did in some cases.
Yeah.
This is where that pays off.
Right.
She was known virtually everywhere by you could be a country music fan, you could be an opera fan, you could be a classical fan, you could be a hard rock fan, heavy metal fan, you still knew who Whitney Houston was.
Yeah. She
was just that inescapable and had that, and her influence loomed that large.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, fine. So she makes a couple of bad records. That's not what we're going to remember. We're going to remember the incredible.
Because everybody does. Everybody,
Yes.
Aunt Jackie don't remember them albums. So who cares?
Right.
And Aunt Jackie's the ultimate barometer for how we should feel about Whitney Houston.
Yes, she is.
We need more Aunt Jackie stories. So
I got some.
Every time you talk about an album, you got to tie in Aunt Jackie. You got to tie her in there somehow.
Yeah, I'll bring it. Look, we'll be that can be arranged. Trust me.
We should do like an entire series on vinylalbumcovers.com, or you could do it on Soul in Stereo, frankly, like the Aunt Jackie Chronicles, and just do like the stuff that she was into.
And as funny as it is, she was really the gateway for a lot of this stuff for my music fandom.
You really should. Like I'm being like halfway serious about that. Like I think that would be fun if you did that. I think you should probably get a kick out of it.
Because my parents would.
She's still here. Yes.
Oh yeah, she's still here. Yeah. She's in her.
Oh, you have to. I guess
she's in her early 70s now. She's gonna kill me for putting her age out there. But like she was my gateway. My parents they like gospel, but. They really mind when it was more R&B focused. That was all her.
You should do it, like Aunt Jackie says.
Yeah.
And then I think. Oh
my gosh, she would love that.
That would be so cool. I think you should do it.
Yeah.
Should totally. I'm going to bat for you, Aunt Jackie. He should do this.
Oh my gosh, she's gonna be like, I saw the podcast. That guy said you're gonna have me on your show.
You should do it, and it would add a whole other color to what you do. I think it'd be really, really cool.
Yes, because she has a personality,
and get a whole other audience for you too. I'm just saying,
she's the best. Love my girl.
That would be awesome, Aunt Jackie. We fought for you this evening. So hopefully, he'll do it. It won't be because we didn't say anything. So this turned out better than I thought. We weren't at each other's throats like I thought we would be. This actually went really well.
Yeah, it did.
So there it is. So thank you guys so much for doing this. We appreciate it. Great idea, Dre. We finally caught up with Ed. Turns out we could find Atlantis. We did it. Thank you very much, Whitney. We love you. We will always love you. And and all that. Sorry, had to. So okay, we'll bring this one to an end. So for Dre and for our guest, Mr. Ed Bowser.
Yes, sir.
I have been Ed. I'm always Ed. And until we see each other next time, keep listening to great music.